I'm in growth mode for my law firm right now. Just in the last month, we've gone from one person, that being just me, to 6 people now, and we're looking to add more. Things are really moving quickly. And I wanted to go through the exercise of trying to figure out what all of the roles for the business are. So I went ahead and put together an org chart, and here it is. As you can see, I'm pretty much the head of everything, and that makes sense because it started with just me, but the whole point of putting this together is to figure out what all of the compartments in the business are, because once I do that, it makes it a lot easier to conceptualize hiring someone for that role, or eventually getting it to the point where I'm not actually the person running each of these individual departments. And what each face here represents would be the head of the respective department or branch of the business, and that would be the person who is ultimately responsible for whatever that department is doing. Then the ownership up top would be responsible for all of the individual department heads effectively. Now you might think this is kind of a silly exercise, and looking at it right now, it does look pretty silly because it's just me for everything, but that's because everything pretty much stops with me right now. I only have one department that is effectively hired out right now, or I hired an intake department manager, and she is in the middle of building out the team for that. She's done a great job so far, so very happy about that, and it's allowed me to focus on all these other roles that I still have to focus on, and each of these roles is only going to get bigger as the firm gets bigger, and as we service more clients, and as we do more things just get harder, and there's only so much time in the day. So I wanted to kind of map this out, because as the firm grows, I want to have sort of targets in mind for roles that I'd want to fill, or where that person would fit in the greater scheme of the organization. But going down the list of departments here, we start with marketing, and that is trying to develop leads or get leads in the door, people who'd be interested in our services, and the whole start of this whole funnel. That is what marketing is for. And that brings me to the next department, which is intake. And intake is responsible for turning those leads from marketing into actual paying clients. And that would lead into the next department, which is fulfillment, and that's the attorneys on staff, the paralegals, the people actually doing billable work. So intake is kind of like the bridge between marketing and fulfillment. And within fulfillment, eventually I'd like to have an office for both Chicago and Houston, or at least some sort of Illinois-Texas divide at the very least, because I'm licensed in both states, I have clients in both states, and it seems like a natural springboard for growth in both states. Right now I'm focusing almost entirely on Houston and the Texas side of the market, but I could certainly push on the Illinois side of things too, and I would envision doing that. So I'd have a managing attorney most likely at both offices. However, right now that's me for both of them. Moving on to the next one, that would be client success, and that would be getting feedback and surveys from clients and trying to get reviews as well, and finding ways to improve the process during this whole thing. After that, we get to finance. This would be more on the billing side, bookkeeping, accounting, all the very necessary things in business, and especially in the legal side, billing is extremely important, and we have trust accounts to manage and everything. So we want to make sure we're doing things very carefully, or we could get in serious trouble and lose our license. So don't want to do that. The next one would be HR. This is a kind of a catch-all because there's a lot of roles that would fit into this. You have hiring, recruiting, onboarding, internal team feedback, and pretty much everything when it comes to keeping, training, and retaining talent for the most part. However, every other department kind of has a little bit of HR type roles built in. They're going to have some sort of input on recruiting. They're going to have some sort of input on internal feedback and all that, and putting on events. So HR would be the one that is primarily responsible for that, but all the other departments would have a little bit of a similar kind of role built in, just not primarily focusing on it. The last department here would be legal, and that would be sort of in-house matters, registering for certain licenses and that sort of thing. And eventually, as the firm grows, I'd be able to justify having an in-house attorney, but we'd have to get some pretty serious scale before that happens. This is a relatively small role for now. And like I mentioned earlier, ownership is effectively the manager of all the managers, so that would be that final box. But while I'm thinking about the growth of the firm and while I'm trying to make hires, I find that looking at this diagram, this map of all the roles and all the departments of the business really helps to try and figure out where I should be focusing. And it also highlights the roles that have yet to be filled, but I should be prepared to fill them in the future when the situation calls for it. Because what this map tells me is that I am the number one risk or the number one bottleneck in pretty much every department, except for intake right now, which has been mostly given to someone else to manage. Not that I'm not doing plenty of work on the intake side right now, there's still plenty of work to be done to improve it, so I'm helping out there when I can, but a lot of the main responsibilities have been passed on to someone else, and now it's on me to manage the manager of that department. And let's say I was able to hire a department head for all 8 departments. Well, I'd be managing a team of 8 people still, and it would be 8 people making a lot of important decisions for the firm, so that would be a hard job in itself, just managing the managers. So you can imagine if I was trying to scale in any significant way, if it's hard enough to manage just 8 people, imagine managing entire departments with multiple people in them each. That's going to get very overwhelming very quickly, so I want to keep that in mind, and this map sort of helps to ground me in that sense. But the bottom line is I want to view this law firm as a business, because that's what it is, and a business has all sorts of elements to it, and the more I can try to organize those elements and the more I can organize my thoughts about those elements as well, the easier it should be to try and implement strategies, to try and implement our growth plan, and trying to get to the next level, because I have it mapped out, and the map might change, and I'll certainly learn plenty of things along the way, but trying to have some sort of map to work backwards from can be pretty helpful, at least I found. It'll likely be a lengthy process in filling out all these roles. I certainly don't want to overextend myself, so I want to make sure I'm hiring carefully, both from a culture perspective, but also a financial perspective. I don't want to get ahead of myself in hiring too many people too quickly, and then I'm putting the entire firm in jeopardy. But so far, things have been going really well. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe so you can stay tuned for future updates. Thanks for watching.